Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. John here with a different point of view.
Yes,
Once again, though, with the main man, Michael. What's going on, dude?
we are doing, I think, better in terms of the sports world since the last handful of times that we've recorded. It feels as though every time we found ourselves doing a show, the Phillies were doing a little bit of something that was kind of annoying, kind of bothersome, but um, you know,
Yes,
post
post corn,
post
but
post corn,
we're in a post corn era.
we are in a post corn world, and in the post corn world, Alec Boehm is a top five hitter in the sport, and that is exactly the world that I want to live in. But seriously, the Phillies, they're definitely hot. They're winning in multiple ways, which is good. It's not just oh, the great pitching bails them out. The hitting has been very very good over this run. They've been overcoming blown leads. They've been doing everything, and find themselves just 4 games out of the NL East. The Braves have certainly been on a cold stretch, and also the schedule getting tougher moving forward for the Braves. And with that, they've made up some serious ground where, you know, I was in a mental headspace where it was pretty much a guarantee that they were just going to end up being a wild card or in a wild card race. Who knows if they were going to make it? And it's nice to know that, like, I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm not saying they're going to get within 2 games or whatever the case may be, but it is nice to know that here we are sitting on um, August 22nd, and the division is very much still in play due to recent events. So, Phils are hot, very, very good. Eagles, they've been very popularly in the news this week with the joint practices going on, and will be playing their second preseason game tonight. Seemingly, hopefully, goes better than the first one. I didn't watch one snap of that, but I did see a lot of highlights and talking points, and it didn't seem overtly positive. But hopefully, it's a little bit better today. And yeah, any LeBron related Sixers stuff gets me excited. I
Oh my God,
see,
yes, the
that workout clip of Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brown, and LeBron was just pure art. And VJ Edgecombe playing really well for the Bahamas again. The shot really does look quicker. So I'm very excited for the Sixer season to start. Absolutely. But we do have some pressing matters that is going to come up throughout it, and one of which being the baseball team. So, John, what are your thoughts on what's been going on recently with the Phils?
Well, Michael, I would say, I guess since we did have a show last weekend and we did the show. We just talked about the AFC, and we'll talk about the NFC midweek this
Next
upcoming
week.
week.
Yeah.
Um, we ignored the Phillies for like 2 weeks.
Hmm.
So now, since what's all that has transpired, um, I guess we should just talk. We should talk about the actual Field of Dreams game itself, right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess we recorded right before that.
Right. So we didn't really talk about that at all. So I thought it was really cool, obviously. A lot of my buddies who are like around your age or a little bit older, like they never watched the movie before. They know of the movie. They never watched it. So they're like,
Sure.
what's kind of the big deal about this? And I was like, oh well, like with like feel why is it so impactful? I'm like, well, like it's weird because Field of Dreams is like it's a sports movie, but it's like not about the sport itself versus like essentially Kevin Costner's character hears a voice that tells him to build a baseball field in on his farm in Iowa, and like a bunch of events transpire and ghosts of dead baseball players start playing on the field. It's weird. You have to watch the movie, but
Sure. Sure.
like the aesthetic of it, it's like it's I guess the thought process is, oh, what if they played an actual like major league game in like this cornfield? I guess it's sort of like MLB saying like, oh, hey, what if we strip down like the big ballparks, all the I guess like all the pageantry, the big
Yeah.
league feel, but have to play a big league game. And I guess that kind of leads into a criticism that I would have of the game is the obscene amount of ads that were on the outfield walls, most notably for gambling sites. And
The irony of it all.
the irony of it is that, well, in the movie, Shoeless Joe Jackson and the 7 other Chicago White Sox players that were banned for throwing the World Series because of gambling appeared on this field. And now they have gambling site ads on the outfield walls. But we got another topic about the effed up part of baseball, but we'll talk about that later. The aesthetic looked really cool. The old players coming out of the cornfields. Tony La Russa looks completely unrecognizable. Kids, this is why you don't drink heavily. Don't be drinking 85 super lights every day, or
Sure.
that's bad.
Yeah.
Tony La Russa is learning that the hard way. Anyway, no, it was cool. And like Alec Bohm played pretty well in that game, Michael. And like I think I joked around. I said like, oh, maybe when he was walking through the corn, like maybe he's been possessed by like I don't know, like Del Ennis or some old timey Phillies player, because he's done a complete 180.
Yeah. Yeah. The big storyline is that they asked Don Mattingly, well, has anything changed in the turnaround to the offense kind of hitting? And like he gives, oh, well, you talked about their approach and just having a better approach up there, and um, really kind of locating and or looking and fixating for your pitch and being patient. And it's like it sounds very elementary. It seriously does. And like, it just kind of awakens everybody to be like, well, what the hell does the hitting coach do? And like, sure, I agree. But I guess sometimes you just need to hear it, really. And they all heard it and have taken it to heart because everyone, is just having better at bats, truthfully. They're not being overtly aggressive. They're waiting till they really do get their pitch and doing a lot of damage when they get it. And that's certainly been a huge impact to it. I think that there's a few players you want to highlight, and like since August and the hot streak that's been going on for the Phils. One of which being Bryce Harper. And Bryce, I saw the tweet float around, and I very much agreed with it that it's like Bryce is having a moment here where it's similar to when Wilt said that he wants to lead the league in assists just because he can. It's one of those things where it's like I'm just going to show everybody what I'm capable of, and that when I'm not doing this, it's because it's kind of like a conscious decision. And for Bryce, it's walking. He has walked an obscene amount.
And he's not talking about getting 10,000 steps a day. We're talking about
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty obscene what we're seeing. Bryce Harper currently leads baseball in walks with 92, higher than anybody else in all of baseball, which is insane, by the way. Like, Bryce before the season, seriously but jokingly, was like, I want to lead. I want to have like 125 walks or something, which is like kind of crazy. But then you look at it and you're like, well, he's got some ways to go. I don't know if he's going to get to 125 or 130, whatever he said. But I mean, since acquiring Luis Ariz, this is the whole point in this, is that Bryce Harper now trusts who is hitting behind him more than he ever trusted Alec Bohm, more than he ever trusted like Nick Castellanos. Like, truthfully, it's been the first time since kind of Reese was hitting behind him more, and like when JT was hitting behind him, but JT was still like, with best catcher in baseball conversations and whatnot. That's you saw a very patient Bryce Harper, but the last like 2 years or so, not that his walk rate was anything bad, but it just wasn't super as high as it could have been. Especially last year, it felt like at times where he just kind of almost got bored of like, I need to be the one to do something, so I'm not really going to be super patient. And now with him trusting and believing in Luis Arise hitting behind him, who he, after having that bizarre hitless streak, is on an 8-game hitting streak, 4 of which are multi-hit games, 3 of which have been 3+ hit games. Um, he's very content with taking his walk. Bryce walks at least once a game, it feels like. And a big reason of that is because, for years now, he's barely seen pitches in the strike zone. That's that big stat of Bryce. He's the lowest percentage of pitches within the strike zone, but he would chase, and the chase rate has gone way, way down since they acquired Arise, and the walk rate has definitely skyrocketed to Bonds level walk rate, and it's really been paying dividends as he's just kind of living on base, and Arise is having a nice run here of driving him in across this winning streak. And obviously, when Alec Boehm is hitting the way he's been hitting, and Bryson Stott has been hitting the way he's been hitting, even JT's been pretty hot over the last like handful of weeks or so. Um, it's paying dividends. It really is turning a corner for this offense. A very interesting stat overall is that the Phillies have the highest team OPS with runners in scoring position. And runners in scoring position stats can always be a little misleading, a little confusing, because if you ask Phillies fans, I'm sure they wouldn't feel that way. But the truth is that they have the highest OPS with runners in scoring position. The caveat is that they're 25th in baseball in opportunities with runners in scoring position, which is obviously bottom 5. However, they are converting in those situations at the highest clip in all of baseball. And thus is a reason why their offense is not like dead last in everything, and why they're able to win the games that they've been winning, because they have been converting with runners in scoring position pretty comfortably all season. It just hasn't happened. It just hasn't been a very frequent thing. And a big part of that is always getting on base for the guys that are hitting your singles and driving you in. And that's what the Phillies are doing right now. And it's nice. It really is nice because they've been, like we said, winning in multiple ways.
Yeah, well, I just want to bring up because we're talking about Bryce here. So obviously, like him getting on base way more at like a super high clip. It's not just that too, Michael. It also I got his game log pulled up here, and I mean he's been on he's been on base basically every game this month.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's been
he's living on base. He's living with the walks for sure.
literally
Because
getting on base at least one time every single game, and like the only thing you can make the argument though is his on base percentage has gone up, but his slugging percentage is going down a little bit. So I think that this begs. I think because he's just walking so much, he's getting less
yeah,
opportunity.
he's not hitting super well right now, but this is what happens with Schwarber a little bit. And Schwarber's been cold. We'll talk about him in a sec, but um the good thing is when you walk this much is that it allows you to survive cold streaks with the bat. It allows you to survive like homerless droughts. It allows you to survive extra base hit droughts and not just consistently driving the ball. But your stats still remain pretty respectable, and you're still leaving a positive impact when you walk as much as you do. And it's kind of what you're seeing out of Bryce Harper at the moment. Let's talk about let's talk about Kyle Schwarber a little bit. Schwarb's has been cold. He has, you know, post All-Star break has certainly been in a swoon. Really just has not been driving the ball as much as we'd hope. He only has now he had a multi-home run game against the Twins in the Corn, but he's only had 4 home runs in the month of August, 2 of which being multi-home run games. So he had 2 home runs in 2 games, and only hit 3 home runs in the month of July. So we're really looking at like just a powerful stretch from Schwarber. He had a 743 OPS in July. He's currently sitting at a 738 OPS in August. He's cold. He's flat out cold. And, when they acquired Arise, they tweaked the lineup around leading off Schwarber, hitting Turner second to break up the lefties a little bit, which you can argue is really not that important considering Schwarber has been hitting lefties better than righties this season. But regardless, I do think that Schwarber really benefited from hitting directly in front of Harper early in the season. I mean, we talk about the Bryce protection all the time, but I think what went under the radar is how much Bryce was protecting Schwarber in those moments and giving him pitches to drive. Now, Schwarber is still getting some good pitches to drive, and he's just kind of missing them. It really begs the question if he's still kind of banged up, if the back is a little stiff and he's not fully 100%, but they don't want to put him on the IL for 10 days.
I
I don't
feel
know. I
like
think
I
I'm
don't know.
at a
I feel
point
like
of
this. I feel like if there's any time to do it, like you're
you're almost missing your window is the point.
I
You
that's
kind
what I was
of
gonna say. Like if they want to do it to give him a break, the best time to do it is probably gonna be now because they're probably gonna put Zach Wheeler on the IL because they just signed Nestor Cortez this week, and that kind of telegraphed that. Well, Zach early this week looked like he was laboring in his last start.
Mhm.
It's mid to late August. Uh, Taking last year out of the equation because he was hurt. This is when the Phillies give Zach Wheeler a break. Is around this time of year, and
Yeah, and especially now more than
I
this
would
year.
rather just stack it all at one time than be like ladder it where it's like, okay, we're gonna put Kyle on the 10-day IL, and then we're gonna put Zach on the 10-day IL 10 days after that, where it's like I don't really see, like I don't
The
know what.
thing with the thing with Wheeler is like Nestor's going to be in like high A to kind of rehab because he got hurt last year, Nestor Cortez, and barely pitched at all. Obviously, in the few games they did throw in was very terrible. Hasn't pitched at all this year, so definitely needs some sort of ramp up period. But like if he is ramping up and is like terrible in the minor leagues, like I don't think it's a full blown guarantee that they call him up. I guess it probably kind of is. Um, but I guess the point is that
What,
I
and
don't
you
know,
throwing 88 against high schoolers wasn't exactly inspiring for
right?
you?
Like I don't know if Wheeler is gonna. I'd assume he makes his next start. They have some off days coming up, like just on like Mondays that you can kind of get a little creative with the rotation a little bit. But I mean, the truth is, John, the biggest reason why I am not like fully all back in on like, oh, this is it, that we're going on some crazy run is because of how Sanchez and Wheeler have looked over the last few weeks. Now, Sanchez has good numbers in August. He's not giving up a ton of runs at the moment, but he doesn't look himself. He hasn't been nearly as sharp. The sinker velocity has dipped a little bit, and that's because he's tired. He really was worked very hard early in the season and rode very hard early in the season and was a big reason why, they kind of got out of the rut that they were in. And Wheeler being that same sort of way where these guys were giving you length, they were giving you great pitching. And I just think they're at a point where they could probably both use a bit of a break so they can get back to their elite
So do you
levels.
think this is why when they at the deadline you thought they were going to bring in like a Robbie Ray? Wasn't necessarily for like, oh, this guy's not going to pitch in the postseason. What's the like? That was the argument that people made
Bobby
about.
Ray, maybe not the best example, but like I do think there were depth starters out there to just give your guys a break. Like getting a starter at the deadline was a September need, was an August September need of like, all right, let's give our guys a little bit of a breather here before the stretch run. And you know, Wheeler, I really just think if he gets like a start or two skipped, I really do think he comes back and is like perfectly fine because I really
Oh,
do
we
think his
agree.
is. I think his is
I
rooted.
said that's why I said the 10-day IL because you call
Well,
up like rank
15 pitchers are 15,
or
unfortunately.
15 day IL, and then call up Rangel, and then have him, you know,
Yeah, the thing with Sanchez though that worries me is he just hasn't looked as sharp for a while. Like it's a lot of hits, it's a lot of, you know, just sitting on the sinker and squaring up, and it's like he still gets crazy whiff numbers on the changeup. Like that's still obviously what makes him as great as he is, but when you only throw three pitches, it does eventually kind of sometimes get to a point where it can come back and bite you. And I feel like, this is a big off season, especially if it's like a full lockout, whatever, to for Sanchez to kind of pick up a fourth pitch. I really do think that would help him a lot. But the way he's kind of thrown the last handful of starts, you're getting away with it against teams that are not so good, like St. Louis, like Minnesota, like Miami. Um, but I do think that if he pitches this way against the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Cubs in a playoff game, the Braves, I don't think you're going to be able to just kind of walk that tightrope of like, I'm going to give up 8 hits across 6 innings and only give up 2 runs or less. And it's like, that's great from Sanchez. Like the way he's pitching right now, if you drop him into a playoff game against the Cubs in the wild card series, which is what it's currently slated out to be, we're I think unfortunately we're like staring down the barrel of like a 5+ earned run outing, and that is a disaster. If he gets rocked like that, it's hard pressed to believe they're going to win a playoff series. So he really needs to kind of lock it back in, and probably could have afford a start getting skipped. But again, this all kind of falls on Dombrowski for not acquiring a starter at the deadline, and thus leading you to like, oh, we're gonna pick up Nestor Cortez off of nothing and hope that he can give us a couple starts here. And it's not like it's
I mean,
awful,
that's what they did
like
last year with Walker Bueller.
yeah, absolutely. And that was nice for us. I would do anything to have a guy like, Taiwan basically back to just be able to eat me some innings. And that's essentially what they're going to be asking of Nestor Cortez. It just unfortunately comes at a time where they just kind of need to keep stacking wins. We talk about the September schedule. It gets a little worrisome at times. But um, what other besides the let's pivot to another concerning player at the
Oh,
moment,
jeez,
and
this is
that
all negative today.
well, listen,
And
because
I'm,
I
and
have his
I'm
three
about to, and
his three
I'm
stars.
about to bury the Dodgers in about 20 minutes too. So I was
Yeah,
gonna
I mean,
say, like,
listen,
why don't like I was gonna bring up like Bryson Stott being like
yeah, well,
the
I have the
like
three
maybe
stars
like
here
the
that we'll talk
MVP of the
about it.
team, like a positional player MVP of the team.
Get to it. We'll get to it. I mean, there's things to be. I was going to bring up Brandon Marsh on how it's just been a really big fall from grace. Obviously an all-star, deserving one at that, to being almost
Yeah, but
unplayable. Like
it's a similar MO to like kind of like Alec Boehm, where like, dude, remember last year? Was it last year or 2 years ago? Where Marsh had like this awful 2 month start of the year, and he was on fire the rest of the
the
year.
rest of the season.
And like everyone's like, his stats didn't look all that great, but it was just because it was severely brought down by the two
Well,
bad
and
months. And I feel like now it's like the inverse of that.
yeah, well, I'd rather it happen the way it happened last year
Yeah, of
instead
course,
of this year.
obviously,
No,
but like,
but I mean, he's part of the biggest droppers in offensive output from first half to second half. And the second half stuff has been really brutal. As of late, I do think that he is kind of turning a corner. I think that the quality of contact is back to where it usually is. He's just been getting a bit unlucky. He's been underperforming his peripherals the last couple weeks or so. But he did have again 2 hits last night. He had a hit the other night too. So I do think I think he's crawling his way out of it, which is pretty huge because he was just a wonderful bat to have. Obviously, he was hitting in the middle of the lineup during his hot streak, but if the guys kind of continue the way they're going, he's going to be hitting at the bottom of the order, and having a bat that is reliable at the bottom of the order like that is going to be it's massive if they're going to really go on a run. So hopefully he is turning a new leaf. But like you mentioned, players that have turned a new leaf, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, like those guys, they've been very, very good. We've been saying it for years that as long as Bryson Stott can give you like a above average, even to league average bat, the defense and base running is so valuable that he'll be a positive player. And like that's all we've really been asking for. And for year to date on his season stats, he's an above average hitter. He's looking at like a 110 to 112 WRC plus at the moment, which is kind of exactly where you want him to be. He's handled the position switch very great, and obviously over the last couple months, he's been really tremendous with the bat. So he's been awesome. Leads the team in F4 by a decent bit among position players. So that's always pretty encouraging. But yeah, I mean, he's a big reason why the team's been not completely drowning. It's just been a consistent at bat and a
I think
consistent
I'll
hitting machine.
also shout out to Derek Hill.
Yeah, I mean Derek Hill, like
Derek
there's the type of
Hill,
bats you need, man. Like
Derek Hill, And that's I get and I guess shout out to Justin Crawford.
He's been better too, for
He
sure.
really bottomed out early on. Like I would say, like kind of like when like the Phillies angst was at like its apex,
Yeah.
and like he's bounced back. I think he's still like a raw. I don't know. It's like he's like a polished player, and he's also a super raw player at like the same time. It's bizarre. It's
He's a big project. He's such an
right.
interesting player because he's so lanky. It makes it a little more difficult.
But I mean, down in like the ninth hole. Like I feel like now he's kind of really like learned how to like kind of live there right now. And the offense. This is like see like we like I think the last show we did or 2 shows ago, I brought up that the Phillies were dead last in Major League Baseball in on base percentage, and the we talk because we talk about analytics a lot with baseball on the show. I hate to say this, not to like disrespect like baseball savant. I'm not like disrespect them. All of that is like kind of worthless if you can't get on base. Like it kind of like it really all depends on your ability to consistently get on base. Because even if you're not great at hitting, right? Like hitting for power, if you just get guys on base, you're gonna like kind of luck your way into scoring runs at times. But you can't get that luck if you're never getting on base. And I feel like now, hey, the Phillies are number one in Major League Baseball in the month of August in getting on base. That is no coincidence that this offense has turned around despite not really hitting for power, Michael. They're like
Yeah.
last in the National League in home runs in the month of August. Bryce has 1 home run this month. You just brought up Kyle. Kyle has 4, but he's hit like 2 multi-homer games. It's not like it's like we usually expect from Kyle, where it's like he's getting a home run like once a series.
Yeah. No. And
finding
yeah.
they're finding ways to score. I mean, Alec Boehm had a game-winning triple last night. Like my God,
No, for sure. It's
I'm just
they're
saying, dude. Like it's like okay, like I don't know. This is Don Mattingly's doing. Like fair play to him because he can't manage a bullpen. So if this is what he's good at, like then by all means lean into it because
Yeah, I guess I'm not giving Don much credit. I'll be completely
no,
frank
I'm
with you,
not giving
but
much credit. I'm just saying I'm
no, no, but it's seriously though. They made a conscious effort to just switch up the approach, and a lot of it is just taking your walks when they come. They're walking a ton. They're getting on base a ton, like you said, and timely hitting being a big theme. Timely hitting is a hard thing to do super consistently. It's very difficult to just kind of lean on being able to hit the 2-out singles with runners on base and stuff.
you're getting it. My buddy who's watching us, he's roasting you right now. He's like, Michael goes to Phillies games twice a week and he doesn't believe in the team.
No, listen, man. For sure. No, you'd call it insane potentially, but it is true.
I said,
It
I
is
don't know.
true,
During the
man.
week, you'll send some stuff. I'm like, this sounds like like you're like in an abusive relationship where you're like, maybe we'll just give Alec like 1 year, $13 million extension with like a team option.
Yeah, no, not a player option for Christ's sake, a team option.
I'm
We're
like,
certainly not giving him the choice.
let's let him do this for another month and then we can talk about that. I was like,
Yeah. No, overall, I mean, and an underrated. No, it's not even underrated. It was the most talked about thing when they, after the trade deadline, is that, I mean, the defense was going to be completely jumbled around, and knocking on wood, this ultimately starts with that, like Trey, since having that disaster week defensively, like truly was like, oh my god, here we go again. He's really like, he's really locked it in. Where it's like, listen, I'm not ready to just gift him shortstop for 2027, but I do think that him leveling out has been a huge steadying force to the defense not being completely useless. And with that same breath, Bryson Stott going to third base, where he struggled in 2022 when he was asked to play third base early in the season. It was rough over there. He's been really good in third base since making the switch. Like he has been definitively better than Alec Boehm at third. And it's like, wow, that's a huge difference. And Bryce Harper,
that was 2022. You're right. I thought it was for some reason. I
yeah,
thought it was 2021 for some reason.
No,
Sorry.
Bryson was not up in 2021. But in Bohm at first base had a couple adventures early on when he first moved over, but has
Oh yeah,
really
the
leveled out to
not
being
getting the
normal.
forced out in that one really
Sure,
bad
sure.
loss. Yeah.
And Bryson Wright obviously has not been good, kind of at all. But for the moment, it hasn't totally killed you yet. He hasn't totally been selling you games. And if you're not noticing the big defensive swaps in a negative way, and the lineup is hitting the way that's hitting, the whole reason we were him and hawing is like, oh, they're doing all this just to keep Alec Bohm in the lineup, yada yada yada. And like Bohm's hitting now, you need to keep his bat in the lineup for sure. So now this is the situation you have to put yourself in, and
That's
he's
very
been good.
interesting because ever since that, basically, like the whole like, hey, we moved everything around to keep Alec in the lineup, and you and I were obviously very vocal critics of it at first. Maybe this is like this is kind of like this is like last chance you. I feel like for Alec Boehm as a major league player. I mean, you're laughing, but it kind of is the truth,
No,
man.
it's true. Like he was before this hot streak, he was really looking at a very, very difficult offseason for him, for anyone to want to give him. No one would want to give him a multi-year contract, and very little teams would want to give him a 1-year deal. So the
What?
fact
No,
that he was able to turn it
I
around,
think you would get a 1 year deal. It would be like he would
maybe, like, dude,
like like
before the hot streak, he's on this crazy hot streak, and his OPS is still under 700. Like we'll talk about, more delve into the numbers and stuff, but it's just like it's he was really bad. Like seriously, was really, really terrible.
I listen. I'm not gonna. You're right. I'm not. You're not sugarcoating it. He before the hot streak, it was pretty brutal.
I mean,
Um,
it was at a point where we would have been better off DFAing him. Seriously.
that's right. It was literally like, why didn't we just DFA him at the deadline and trade for like Josh Bell? I'm just throwing names out there.
No,
Like,
sure. It
right.
regardless, it was just anyone. Um, but yeah, I mean, they're
Maybe it
they're
was the
doing really
corn.
well,
Maybe
and
he was like, oh,
maybe it was, man.
this reminds
Let's
me of home, and like it's like he found his zen in the corn.
Jesus, maybe I wouldn't put it past.
We're in a
I wouldn't put
post
it past
corn
them.
era, Michael. We're gonna be positive.
Speaking of the post-corn era, let's get into the 3 stars. Before we get into the 3 stars, are is there anything else that you have about the Phillies?
I have a hot take that I've been keeping like under wraps for myself.
All right.
And then I saw your tweet that you posted the other day or yesterday, I think it
Yesterday,
was,
yeah.
where
Which,
it
of
was,
course, by the way, I fired that off, and he gives up 2 homers and 4 runs.
yeah, way to
But
go. Thanks.
regardless,
Good job.
I'm
Congratulations.
pushing an agenda. I'm pushing an agenda.
See, I think Jesus Luzardo is the most complete pitcher on the pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean, he's easily been
Besides
the
Nate
team's.
Duran, obviously, because he's a
No, I
closer.
mean, he's easily been the best pitcher on the team over the last like 2 months, at least 2 months. The tweet was a tier list, and it was, would Jesus Luzardo be your team's ace? And the only definitive no's I had were the Brewers and the Dodgers, and then I had a handful of teams in the good debate, and then I had 23 teams or 24 teams in the yes category, where Jesus Luzardo would be their ace. Like he's like sixth in F WAR among all pitchers. Obviously gives you good length, is like third in baseball or fourth in baseball in strikeouts after last night. Even in a outing that he struggled in, he still gave you 5 2/3 and 9 strikeouts, and kind of got hosed by some bad defense that he would have been able to at least get out of the sixth. Who knows? Maybe it'll be interesting to see how that one error for Bryson Stott gets ruled. Uh, if it goes down as a hit and an error, which it's currently sitting at, or if it gets changed to just a blatant error, because that'll take away 2 earned runs from him, which will be nice for his season stats. But I mean, Luzardo now for a few months has been really, really good, and you know the tweets have been going around of like, it's easily Dave Dombrowski's best move. It's not even really close, particularly, and it's one of those trades where if the Phillies were trying to get a pitcher like Jesus Luzardo the way he's performing right now, I don't even know if they'd have the farm to actually pull it off. I don't know even if Red Torria
No.
and like Gage would even be considered enough for a guy like Luzardo, a 28-year-old pitcher who's going to finish like top 5 at least in Cy Young voting, who seemingly is only going to get better. So it really was highway robbery what he was able to pull off for Starlin Caba, and the other prospect is escaping me. But seriously, that's an all timer right there. That's one of his best moves, probably as an executive for his career. Dave Dombrowski. That could be one of that's certainly one of his best. But he has been nothing but spectacular. He obviously had the
What's interesting
brutal
about you
early
say that
season, but
is he basically made the same trade when he was the Tigers executive, except it was for Max Scherzer,
Max
who,
Scherzer.
which, by the way, Max Scherzer, to me, I think he's a clown.
I think he's
Like
just
first
old and
ballot Hall of
washed.
Fame pitcher, but did you see that like his outfielder committed that egregious error and he just showed him up like when he just didn't field the ball? Everyone's like, "Oh, that's just Max's competitive fire."
It is
And
just Max.
I'm
He's a
like,
bit of an
dude, you suck
asshole.
now
Like,
because you're like 45 years old, still cashing major league paychecks. I'm like, does your team show you up when you give up 3 home runs a game? No, they don't do that. So don't show up your fielder for. That's why I hated Jake Arrieta when he was here because I think he showed up like I forget who it was. Was it not Reed? Was it?
yeah,
Was it?
you get total asshole pitchers. I mean, that's what it is. You're right. It would be different if Scherzer. It would be different if like the Blue Jays were just like good. It'd be different if like they're in a big playoff, which I guess they're not fully out of it because the AL is so trash. But no, I hear you. But regardless, Luzardo has been spectacular for sure. It can't go understated. That he has been a consistent arm throughout all of this, giving you length and stuff. So knock on wood, as long as he's healthy, I really do feel confident with him. And if things continue on this path, it'll be really interesting to see what should be considered the right decision on who to start, in a game one situation. But obviously, we got a long way to go. Before we pivot topics, I do want to show off my 3 stars. So, John, whenever you're ready. Phillies are 7 in a row, 7-0 post corn, including the corn, I guess. They've been very much on a nice hot streak. My 3rd star of this kind of moment that we've had. It's been a while. We haven't done one of these since right before the All-Star break. So that just goes to show how things have kind of been in terms of a 3-star deserving spot. So Bryson Stott, since June 7th, has just been a tremendous, tremendous player. 229 at bats, slashing 301, 399, 445 for an 845 OPS. 3 home runs, 16 doubles, 37 walks in that stretch. He really, he had a moment there where only Barry Bonds had more walks and no strikeouts in like a 12-game stretch. Like, actually, like video game
I love
craziness.
that like Barry
Um,
Bonds, who's like people who are my age and older like hate him because of the steroids. And now people are like, "Oh, I wish I like steroid baseball. It was way more fun." You can't have your cake and eat it too, people. Anyway,
no,
it's like
sure, but with
he's
Bonds,
like
it's like,
he's like the Wilt of baseball, where it's like, "Oh, this is an absurd stat Barry Bonds had," and now you're
yes,
like,
yes.
"Yeah, it's like a benchmark."
Seriously, it was, yeah, yeah. No, it really is crazy. And since August, 476 on base percentage with a 904 OPS. Yeah, he's been awesome. It's not only the hits, he's obviously walking a ton, and that's been the thing with Bryson, that it was like early in the season, his approach was to just kind of get off his A swing, not always hunt for the walk, and he was struggling, but he was finding his hits and hitting the ball harder and whatnot. And now it's kind of come full circle where he's brought back the approach and he's brought back the patience and he's brought back the walking and has turned himself into a really nice complete hitter. And combine that with the fact that he's played some tremendous third base defense since moving over there, uh, has really all but locked in probably that they're going to want to try to extend Luis Arise. And part of Bryson Stott's value comes with his ability to be versatile. Like, it was a big thing that it was like, he probably can't play shortstop because he wasn't all that great at it in 22. And it was big reason why, they moved him to second for Trey. And, we were like, oh, he's this great second baseman. Let's not mess with it. But showing his ability that he can be a really good third baseman, it inspires confidence in me that if they did want to put him at shortstop, he probably would be able to handle it. And eventually, like not even eventually, but if they need to, I'd feel confident if he had to move to an outfield spot. So his defensive versatility is something that certainly brings him more value than what was, on the surface. And especially if the bat's going to be this good, then, it's just all gravy with Bryson Stott. So he's been a huge, huge positive for the Phillies. My second star of the week, a guy we haven't mentioned yet, but a guy that deserves his flowers, Aaron Nola. Since July, it's been 9 starts, 52 innings, only 21 earned runs, 59 strikeouts to 17 walks, a 3.63 ERA. And in the month of August, it's been 4 starts, 23 innings, 7 earned runs, 30 strikeouts to just 7 walks for a 2.74 ERA. That's been big for him. He's kept the walks down. In his last start against Miami on Wednesday was tremendous. 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned. Obviously, the home run thing is still annoying. It still is what it is, but he's done a really nice job just limiting the runs in general. The homers are being solos or 2 runs. It's not really killing you, but he had 8 strikeouts to no walks. His curveball looks about as good as it's looked in probably like a couple years at this point. They've been messing with his usages and what he's been throwing, and it's obviously matchup dependent, but he's really found the feel for his curveball again. It's become that nasty elite pitch that there was once a time. I know if you haven't been watching the Phillies for all that long, there was once a time where if you would ask the stars around the league like what's the nastiest pitch in baseball, Aaron Nola's curveball was at the top of a lot of their lists. And it's getting kind of back to that where you're watching that curveball and it is just straight up dancing. And it was
Yeah, well,
certainly on
Michael,
display against Miami.
well, Michael, when he was like when he hit like rock bottom this year around like late May, I think were we like one of the first people that were like, hey, like his other pitches are good. His fastball is just the worst pitch in
Yeah, I
baseball.
mean,
So if he cut back on it and maybe mixed in like like a sinker or like I don't know some like basically not a four seam fastball, like he could it would in theory he pitch better. And
sure. Yeah. I
he's
mean,
kind of had
his
to adjust like mid season. Like Andy Painter had to adjust in the minors, but like that's the minors. Like you can adjust there. Knowles has had to do it at the big league level. It's really impressive, like the adjustments he's made, and now he's kind of back to being like maybe not like the Cy Young runner-up pitcher he was 5 6 years ago, but he's a most certainly a very good number 4 starter on a
yeah.
loaded pitching staff.
For sure. And when he's pitching like this, it really inspires you confidence. Like, listen, we can't forget how we were feeling after the WBC watching him pitch for Team Italy. And we were like, oh my God, like, dude, if we get this version of Nola, holy shit. And it's like, then it went all bad. Listen, last year we were like, oh, everything's bad because the velocity is down. And then the velocity this year has pretty much been normal for him, like to his career averages. And he got shelled a lot, and we were like, oh boy, maybe it is just over. But like you said, they've messed with his usage rates and what he's been throwing more or less. And it changes start to start too. Like them making it as matchup dependent as possible, I think also helps keep, hitters off balance. And, like you say, he really sliced into that four seam usage rate, but over the last couple starts, he's picked it back up again because he's kind of had a better feel for it. And when the curveball is as nasty as it's been, the changeup's still good. Everything, the fastball plays better off those. Everyone always says you have a good fastball to help your breaking stuff play off of it. Sometimes it works the other way too. If you have great breaking stuff, it can really help your fastball play a little bit
Well, he
better.
has that kind of
And
that like not like he has like a unique delivery where he doesn't. He's not like, oh, I'm going to overpower you when I sling the ball. It's sort
yeah,
of
I
like
mean, if
wheels
you
gun.
tell Aaron throw it as hard as you can, he's only really hitting maybe 95. Like it's just all he's got in the arm. So he's always been a very lax, easy delivery. It's why he's been knock on wood again. It's why he's been as durable as he's been his whole career. So nice to see him really seemingly turn a corner. That last outing versus Miami was quite surgical. I mean, he gave up the solo home run and worked his way out of like one jam. But besides that, it was really like, holy shit, like Aaron Nola is back, back, back. And a big thing is the walks too. It really is. Like if he's not walking guys, um, And that's all. Then that is pretty much what it goes for any pitcher. If you're walking a lot of guys, you're going to have some issues, and that's been Wheeler's biggest problem. That's been Sanchez's biggest problem while they've struggled, and Nola not walking guys. He's just going to put himself in a great spot. So shout out Knowles. Hopefully he can keep it going, because if you can get to a spot where it's not like a burden to throw him in a playoff setting. If it's like last year, it was like, listen, we'll use him as an opener, and he was great in those 2 innings, but it was like you didn't feel comfortable with it, especially when Wheeler went down. It would have been great if you felt more confident in him. But the way he's pitching now is making you feel like if he has to start a
Well,
game,
and to
you're
get
not
back to
holding
our
your
earlier
breath.
discussion, to kind of bring back a highlight of our earlier discussion, the apprehension of putting Wheels on like a 15-day IL is, well, you just don't trust the guys, the 4 and 5
You only trust
stars.
2 starters. You only trust at
Right.
that point 2 guys. Yeah.
That was the apprehension, but now it's like, okay, maybe they can do that.
Yeah, the way that not only Nola but
Hmm.
Painter too, like
So
you mentioned.
who is Michael's first star of the week? I wonder who it is.
An old favorite of mine, a guy that I have defended. The only guy I probably defended more than this guy is, funny enough, probably just Aaron Nola. But a guy that I've called for breakout candidates in years of doing this show. If it's gonna come, it's gonna come, and it never does. And Alec Boehm. Alec Boehm is the first star since August 1st. In 70 at bats, he's hitting 371 with a 416 on base, 529 slugging for a 944 OPS. Only one home run, which is just funny. But 15 runs batted in, 5 walks to just, I don't know why that says 1 strikeout. That's a typo. It's 4 strikeouts, but still 5 walks, 4 strikeouts. He's never a guy that is going to walk a ton, but he is a guy that is currently waiting and seeking out his pitch and getting hits because of it. Since August 1st, he's got 7 multi-hit games. His OPS has risen 48 points since August 1st for his year total. So that's pretty substantial. And last night, the shot there, hitting a walk-off triple on the bottom of the 10th inning that it was almost caught, but he did give it a nice ride. Where let's say it is, in a world it is caught. You know what? I'm like, good job, Alec. You drove in the tying run with a sac fly on first and third, and he didn't hit the ball on the ground. That's the biggest thing with him is, avoiding hitting into those double plays. We know you're not fast, so almost anything on the ground that a fielder can get to is an out. So he's really been line driving, classic Alec Boehm, driving the ball to the gaps. He had that home run in Minnesota that was it one of the first home runs you'd ever seen where you weren't sure if it was fair or foul? Like seriously, how many home runs of Alec Boehm's career has he pulled that much where you weren't sure if it was going to stay fair?
Dude,
Um,
speaking of pulling the baseball, um, not to get off topic, but did you see the video of Ted Williams that
yeah,
like
no,
his
I
son,
mean Ted Williams.
who we'll talk
You
about
know,
later, and
yeah, Ted Williams is.
Joey Votto was asked about, and he was like, because people were like, "Oh yeah, why don't every major league player do it?" And Joey Votto was like, yeah, dude, yeah, fans, like
They're trying.
it's like it's one of the hardest things you can do is to do this. Ted Williams, he's like one of the greatest hitters ever. It was easy for him to do it compared to, relative to other big league
Yeah, Ted
players.
Williams really cool. I mean, really ahead of his time. Every quote you read about Ted Williams on what he was saying about hitting in the 30s and 40s and 50s, it's all like it's where all the hitting analytics in today's game and all the hitting strategy in today's game stems from. Like drive line, that big, it's such a scary word to a lot of boomers and whatnot of they're ruining baseball, launch angle and stuff. And it's like drive line's core principles are rooted in what Ted Williams's hitting beliefs were. Ted Williams was certainly ahead of his time, which is crazy, by the way. Like he must have been some sort of super genius because Ted Williams is spewing all this stuff without like data. You know what I mean? He didn't have the numbers to be like, oh, well, my launch
So,
angle is this and this. I do this. No, he was just like he just understood the game at a level that no one else really did. And
so
that's pretty
yeah, well,
remarkable
interesting
without the
you bring that
stats.
up because Ted Williams, my dad, your uncle, told me about this about Ted Williams. He's like, John, like Ted Williams was a pilot because he had such tremendous eyesight
Yes.
and like he understood like I guess like mathematics as it relates to like spatial awareness.
Sure.
So he was a pilot. Like most baseball players during like World War II and the Korean War, guys that were drafted, they were just there to like, oh hey, oh that great job serving. They didn't actually fight in the war. Where Ted Williams flew like 100 combat missions.
Yeah.
And
No,
another
I mean,
thing
he's
about Ted
special, man.
Williams, and that, well, people talk. I think Ted Williams may have been on the spectrum because, like, apparently, like he freaked out when he heard loud noises. Not before he served in the war, and
Sure.
like, and then when they installed what like lights to have night games, he would freak out because he was like, "Oh my god, this is too bright. Like, I can't."
I didn't know that.
And they said
I
like,
mean, listen, it
and
would
he
make
was like
sense, honestly.
extremely socially awkward, but like he was just this hitting savant. So I think maybe you could say maybe he was a baseball savant.
No, seriously, he's ahead of his time. It's remarkable
Because he
listening to the way
saw
he
the
talks
game in
about
such
pulling
a
the ball in the
different
air.
way compared to other people. You try to talk to him about it, and he would be like, "Why don't you see it like this? I don't understand why you can't like kind of see this." And it's like, what? Like he would, and think about it, people in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. He's talking to people who were like dumb. I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, in comparison for sure. But yeah, Bomer first star, he's been great. Team's been great. Hopefully they continue it. If they, you win today, you win another series before you head out west. They got a interesting little run here before September. They finish up the weekend at home against the Cardinals. You got Painter today. You got Sanchez tomorrow, and then you head out west to take on the Mariners, Angels, and Diamondbacks. You know, if you just win the series out there, take care of business the way you're supposed to, you'll be in a real nice position to potentially snatch first place from the Braves. Like you're only 4 out now. You play them 7 times in September, and you play some other good teams. Obviously, they end the year against the
It is
Brewers and the
annoying that the
Rays.
Braves only acquired players specifically so the Phillies couldn't
Yeah.
get
They
them.
play a lot of division. They play the Mets. They play the Nationals again in the month of September. So it's an annoying, it's
Shout
a
out
tough
Jacob
schedule.
DeGrom for vetoing that trade going to the Braves.
Yeah, yeah, that is a big one. But that'll wrap up Phillies talk for today. What do you want to pivot us to?
Well, we I think we should definitely keep baseball. Let's talk. We got to talk about this Mark Walter situation because this is so fascinating to me. So,
Yeah.
if you've been living under a rock the last 2 weeks, the owner of the Lakers and the Dodgers, Mark Walter, the CEO of Guggenheim, he's being investigated by the feds for basically. How do I make this like the easiest way to explain this? So Mark Walter is was being investigated for taking insurance premiums from all of his insurance companies that he owns. So for like life insurance and annuity companies, taking the premium, so basically the money you pay every month to have this insurance, and was using it to basically buy sports teams.
Yeah.
He was quote unquote, but they call it borrowing. The reason why he's borrowing it is you need to put the money. Seriously, you have to put the money in like money markets or like income funds or like safe investments that guarantee your return. So they could pay out the insurance policy. That's how insurance companies make money. Well, at least life insurance does.
Hmm.
Well, buying sports teams isn't exactly like the most stable. Doesn't really follow that idea
Sure.
because a lot of these sports teams, when you like, they try to they cook their books to report losses. So if you take these and it's also a massive conflict of interest when the lender is also the borrower, or sorry,
Hmm.
it's a massive.
It's a closed loop. I mean, it's a closed loop
Correct. Correct. It's what
of
Bernie
money.
Madoff was. It's not like a Ponzi scheme, but there's like limits to what he's doing, and he like dramatically exceeded these limits. So there's suspicion now that Mark Walter basically loaned himself the $2 billion back in 2012. He used to buy the Dodgers, along with the group that he headed with Magic Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, all of the like a lot of the Dodgers spending isn't from their revenue streams. It's from the loans that he's been taking out from basically your life insurance money. There's a strong possibility that someone who has like a life insurance policy, their premiums are going towards Shohei Ohtani's contract. Like that, as insane as that sounds, like that's where it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel that the whole mantra of, well, the Dodgers are just spending all this money, every team can do it. Well, yes and no. Yes, the Pirates can spend money because
any owner can be corrupt.
Well, I was gonna say any owner can spend money on players, right?
Yeah.
It's free agency. The Dodgers don't sign everybody that's available, right? There's a 26-man roster. I might get flamed for saying that, but anyway. Well, Michael, but like I sent you that video, another video about how like Bob Nutting and like the owner of the Pirates, and I forget the name of the owner of the Marlins. They're basically pocketing the money that's supposed to be used to spend on players, right?
Yes.
So you have which violates the bylaws. Like basically, all these owners are violating bylaws for like competitive balance that they all want to lock baseball out for a year to establish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the Dodgers, though, let me ask you this. Is this as bad, less bad, more bad than what the Astros did with their cheating scandal? I don't think it is.
It's hard to say because
this is bad. I'm not forgiving
this. Is bad. It's a big scandal. You're getting your money in like unearnest ways and using that to help fund your team. And for the team that seems to have like unlimited money.
Well, Michael, the $1 million question I have is this: is the Dodgers made $1.1 billion in revenue?
Yeah.
Why weren't they using that to pay for payroll?
Why weren't they? I don't know.
We don't know why. That's the question.
Yeah.
Because Dodger fans are idiots. They're like defending. They're like, well, we make $1.1 billion a year. Like they're bootlicking the billionaires. So they're like, well, like it wouldn't have mattered if we had to steal this money to pay for the players. And it's like,
yeah,
well, what else is this guy doing where he has to borrow money? What is Mark Walter using with the revenue of the Dodgers? What is he doing with it that he needs to where now he has to like quick sell the Los Angeles Lakers to? He basically needs like 20. He basically needs like, what was it, $30 billion he's got to pay by the end of the year, or else he can go to jail because of all the violations he's committed.
Yeah, I mean, he's like probably going to go to jail, and it just opens up the whole.
Billionaires don't go to jail, Michael. He's not going to go to jail. He's not going to jail. But like, this is the other thing though too. So with these loans that he's using, he was putting it towards, like the TV contract. Like he was putting it in some way where he made it look like the Dodgers were not making as much money, so he wouldn't have to pay as much in revenue sharing.
Well, I mean, they got that sweetheart TV deal when they went bankrupt, like however long ago at this point, where they don't have to give as much because of that to begin with. But
well, that's with the TV contract. He's putting the loans
towards their TV contract too.
He's putting the loans to the overall like what the Dodgers make. So in other words, he's stiffing these other owners money while also being allowed to basically basically get free reign to sign the Japanese players. You know,
Yeah. It's very, very shady, and like I can't even begin to fathom where these.
he's got baseball writers bootlicking his organization, like Jeff Passan, who if you Jeff Passan's going to be on the Max Manus podcast. He was on
He
that.
already was. He already
What he
talked about it. But
was.
like he's got his own show that he's gonna talk about and you know, I think on Tuesday he keeps saying. So we'll see what he has
Did
to
you see the
share.
clips? Do you see the preview clips with Jeff? Like, I like
Yeah.
Jeff
Jeff
before
is, yeah.
this, but dude, he looked like someone who was on the stand. It's like he's got to be being deposed, having to talk about but he kept was like, oh, allegedly. He kept saying, oh, like this could have happened. Like, no, it clearly happened.
Well, I
The,
mean, listen,
you don't just quick sell
he's
the
the
Los
lead.
Angeles Lakers without putting. But
John, he's the lead reporter. He can't like I understand that, but it's not like he's ever been like super,
well, I think this is
super
the question. This is a
big
big
in it.
question. And we're not going to get too deep into this, but
Yeah,
like
because we're losing our heads here, I think, a little
losing our
bit.
heads here a little bit. But like, how did nobody know he was doing this? You mean to tell me in like Major League Baseball, Michael, he's been Mark Walter's been being investigated this for 14 months. They said when last year when he arrived in New York, the federal agents were at like his like office and seized everything.
John, from 12 years ago, whatever, 2012, there were articles out of like, oh, the guy buying the Dodgers with health insurance. Like there were articles written about it at the time. Just people didn't, no one made a big stink out of it because the Dodgers hadn't been winning anything. So
Well, it's
truthfully,
also
it's
that
like
the
if
Dodgers
that's
basically
what
went
it is. If
bankrupt
the
too.
Dodgers don't win World Series the last 2 years, which again, very, very possible situation the last 2 years for them to not win the World Series, a lot of this probably even continues to stay under wraps or isn't that big of a deal. It's just, yeah, who knows? Maybe maybe owners knew and were keeping it quiet, and then the Dodgers started winning and like ruining baseball, as everyone says, and
Well,
maybe
I
it
want
got
to bring up
leaked or
something
something.
about. Well, I want to bring up something about the deferred money as it relates to
Sure.
the scamming, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So, did you, Michael? Were you aware? So, the Dodgers still have to put that money aside for Otani. They're not pushing it out. Like, it still comes out of their budget.
Yeah.
The deferred money,
Yes, I did know that. That was
right?
like it's like the common misconception. Yeah.
Right, and put it in escrow.
Hmm.
And Otani gets paid the principal. I think in like 2031 is when it starts, or
Something like
2030,
that. Yeah.
right? But the Dodgers get to keep most of the gains off of it
Hmm.
because it's an escrow. It's not just like sitting. It's not like it's cash under a mattress and then it's like oh, it's 2037. Here's Shohei. Here's 30. Here's $48 million. Like
Yeah.
it's all and it's like, is it real money that they're throwing in escrow?
Yeah. No, it's
You
fair to
you
assume that
follow me? Like that's the
it's fair to
issue.
assume that all the money that they're getting it stems from, you
Because
know,
because Michael, so I looked it up. If the Dodgers weren't deferring all these contracts as it relates to the competitive balance tax, the
mhm.
Dodgers are saving in luxury tax payments because of this, like $120 million a year potentially, like
Mhm.
obscene amounts of money, and
Yeah.
it's literally like not like real money. It's not real money. It's like what? Like can
No, it's a total scam. It is. I don't know. Like he's trying to sell the team, and it'll
Well,
be
he's not selling
interesting.
the dot. He tried to cash out on the team's TV contract. In other
Hmm.
words, he went to the network that broadcasted Dodger games, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're paying me $380
I mean,
million."
that he owns that.
And they
The
would,
team owns that.
but they wouldn't let him do it because they already bought a couple other networks.
Yeah.
They don't have the
Yeah.
available cash flow to just. It's dude. It's like, see, this is where it's like Rob Manfred and Adam Silver are like just horrible commissioners because
Yeah. You can't let shit like this go down in your
you
leagues.
can't let people buy teams with basically fake money. And
Well, unfortunately, this is just, and I know this was a while ago, but this is the world we live in. We live in a world of scamming very rich people that ruin everything for everyone else, truthfully.
well, that's the thing.
And
It's like, so now it's like, so now we're gonna have. So I think just to close this up, we'll talk football. I think Michael. Now I think the lockout. I don't think it's going to be just owner versus player. I think it's going to be owner versus owner, where you're going to have the haves, like the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Mets, are going to basically be are going to go and be like, oh hey, like I don't know, you're going to have like the owners, like I don't know, you're going to have like the owner, like the Yankee owner, the Phillies owner,
well, it all depends,
go
John.
to
Like
the
it
Dodgers
really,
and be like, wait a minute, like you could just get all these players, but you're not using real money. Like we're using real money to pay. Like the Phillies are using. I'm assuming. This is another
man,
thing.
John, like this is a big assumption. We don't know anything. Honestly, truthfully, we don't know anything. That's ultimately what it boils down to. We know from what those articles and share, but we don't know much. We don't know exactly. Well, obviously, we don't know what's going to come of it, but we don't know like how much actually goes into, um, you know, these negotiations and whatnot. Like, obviously, it starts with the cap, which, you're so it's just that there's not going to be a cap. Unfortunately, I don't think the players are going to let that happen at all. Which I mean, I think is a good thing. I don't think the cap is a good thing at all. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's not worth my headache, honestly. Right now, I'm trying to be a fan of a World Series winning team. Right now, I can't focus on too much that the Dodgers are scammers because the Dodgers, as good as they are, they do have cracks in the armor, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Andy Paja has just got is going to be out for like 4 to 5 weeks with a broken hand. Like they are not they're no guarantee to win the World Series, is all I'll say, even though everyone kind of acts like it. They just the same way they haven't been a guarantee to win the World Series in each of the last 2 years because baseball, it is hard to win. You can get as many darts as you want to get. It is difficult to actually go out and do the thing. So let's pivot. Let's move on to football and the Philadelphia Eagles, who play another game tonight. They play a preseason game against the New England Patriots. I haven't seen anything about any like starter playing that's notable. I feel like with the joint practice week, they have no desire doing that, as they never have any desire to play any meaningful starters in these games. Um, but last game was it seems like they were the worst offensive team in football that week of preseason by a pretty large margin. And that's never encouraging. But we did have the big joint practice that we were all waiting for against the New England Patriots with A.J. Brown there. And shocker, A.J. Brown, still a really good wideout. Like, who could be so surprised by that? Like, obviously, he's still very good. Makes you question the effort last year, whatever. But again, I'm not going to drive myself insane about it. I choose to keep my peace and just be like, that's a great receiver that gave our best corner some pretty big trouble, like for a couple days, and that's fine. Like it's talk about iron sharpening iron. You talk about how you can get better, and a good way to
well,
get better for
I'm sure
Quinion is to
AJ
go
Brown
your
was
wideout.
motivated. I'm sure AJ Brown had some motivation on
I'm
top
sure
of.
Quinion did. I'm sure Quinion did too. Like, yeah, listen, AJ is just really good, and like a big part of it too is we can talk about effort and whatnot, but it's August and for a guy that didn't like have to get surgery and just like had nagging injuries, the healthiest time for a guy that has nagging injuries is usually the start of the season. So, you know, that burst looked very bursty. And I think a good chunk of it is that he's healthy right now. And is that to say he's going to be healthy all year? Who knows? I don't think that like, is the knee going to explode and degenerate this year? Maybe not this year fully, but every year of his Eagles career, AJ has hit like a little bump in the road by the time we get around like Thanksgiving and whatnot, as he gets a little whatever, as do most NFL players. So yeah, he looks very, very good right now. He looks very healthy right now.
Well, I
And
mean, I think I also want to add in the caveat from reading the tea leaves, reading about a lot in this offseason. The Eagles got not much interest in AJ Brown when the season ended for a trade, and you know, my, I would
maybe it's because he really just wanted to go to the Patriots. I think ultimately
I think it was
that
that,
plays a
and
big role.
I think that played a big role in it. I think another big role was the way he was acting on the Eagles played a role as well.
Sure.
Michael, normally guys in AJ Brown's position that act like they're cause a lot of drama, or they don't, I guess, fall in line, or whatever term you want to use for his contract. I think they would say, is the juice worth the squeeze from what we have
Mhm.
to give up versus what we got to deal with? Probably not. Especially if we're going to trade for him, and he's going to throw a hissy fit and go to New England anyway. I think that was kind of like you just said. That's probably part of the issue. But I think also too, from AJ Brown's perspective, like if he, let's say hypothetically he was phoning it in last year, right? Let's just say that, right? When you phone in a year in the NFL, like it hurts your rep, and it puts you in a position where your, let's just say your leash, so to speak, is very short. Because if he starts dogging routes for New England, then, which I don't think he will, but like,
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's levels to being, the quote unquote diva wideout. Like
I mean,
he's not
I'll just say
Antonio
this:
Brown. You know what I mean?
I'll just say, look at Antonio Brown, and you
Yeah,
like,
he's not Antonio Brown. Like he's not Stephon Diggs. He's not these guys that are like clinically insane. You know what I mean? He's not crazy, and he's not like totally outlandish on like, a Micah Parsons level talking on podcasts like very strangely about certain things all the time. Like it's a very different type of it was a very unique situation. Seriously, it really was. That I think people just associate it with like some of the worst situations in the league when it comes to stuff like this. But overall, not important. None of this matters. He's off the team. They got a first round pick for it. Truly, none of it matters anymore. It is what it is. But he had a great practice or a couple practices, and
talk
um,
about practice, Michael.
we are talking about the practice that teams value as like more important than games, preseason games. That is so. Yeah, the big highlights I would say for like the big positives for the Eagles joint practices, what it seemed was Jalix Hunt continues to just kind of be very, very good and very effective constantly. There was a lot of positives I heard with the Eagles' run game, which is very nice to hear considering how terrible it was for most of last year. Um, there were pretty gargantuan holes, very good in the run game there, and it seems like you know they didn't have Devontae Smith and Mekhi Lemon in like the joint practice sessions and whatnot. Those guys were limited to certain things, and even though at times it seemed like the passing offense did struggle, I did feel as though I heard and saw a good amount of positives from the wideouts that were playing. And granted, it's not Devontae Smith at all, and it's not a
Well,
first round draft pick like Lemon, but
let's just jump into that. Like Dontavian Wicks look great.
it's what we heard. We heard and saw some clips that he looked very good, and a lot of people are getting excited about the potential with him, which I think that there is certainly I think something to be further unlocked, and obviously the Eagles believe that is he's making like $13 million next season. And Elijah Moore showed some pretty good juice. Darius Cooper continues to kind of impress. So I, we've talked about this before that obviously you're not going to have the 1-2 punch that was AJ Brown, Devontae Smith at wide receiver this year. However, you probably have the best receiver depth with the Eagles since 2022, and it's probably deeper than that
Well, yeah,
season.
because if you look at the Rams' offense, because the Eagles run a variation of it
And the
now.
Packers, I mean, the Packers
The
offense is
Packers,
probably
I would
more
say the
akin.
Packers. Well, let's say the Rams too. Like it's kind of like the same. It's very similar offenses. This is Mannion's version of it. Dude, like how many of your same game parlays have been ruined when, like, I don't know, Luke Musgrave catches a touchdown, or
Mm-hmm.
like Terrence Ferguson gets a touchdown, or Jordan Whittingham, or
Yeah, no, for sure. And the Packers, we talk about too with their receivers, kind of just rotating on who's good, who's not. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. Jalen threw a decent bit of interceptions over the couple days, some of which definitely not his fault, some of which definitely his fault. And I think that um, we're just going to see more interceptions this year from Jalen Hurts, and not a bad thing. It really is not the end of the world because
are
of
we
how they're
though?
going to come. Yeah, like he's gonna throw some rough ones over the middle where it just sails on him a little bit, or he, timing route, hit top of your drop, let it rip, and it's just like it gets jumped or something. And it's fine. Like it's going to happen. He's gonna throw interceptions that every quarterback ever in the history of the NFL has thrown. Of you try to throw something over the middle and it sails on you and it falls right into the safety's arms, and you're
How
just
many
like, oh,
interceptions did he throw last year?
I don't know, not many, like four. No, 5, 6. Well, he threw like 4 in one game, so probably
I was
like
gonna say, yeah,
7. Yeah, yeah.
he threw 6.
6. Yeah, I expect that number to be closer to 10. And again, not like I'm
You know,
not
if you
saying he's
look
gonna
at
throw
Jalen Hurts'
15 picks,
numbers,
but well, John, again,
yeah,
it's
I was
almost
gonna
like
say,
looking at these numbers almost doesn't even matter. It's a completely new offense. It is a completely new offense. And they're still gonna be very run heavy because that's where their bread and butter is, but he's just he's going to make mistakes, and that's part of it. It's the things we've been asking for. It's the things we want him to do because we want him to throw between the numbers, and a lot of that's scheme oriented. But like that Charger game is such a fascinating game to look at because he throws that interception that AJ kind of made the business decision to not go up and get, but at the same time it was still like a high throw, and it's like he made a throw that was a little high that probably should have been caught, that got tipped and picked, unfortunate. But then what does he do later in that game on that 3rd and long? He rips it to Devontae Smith over the middle, that it's everyone's favorite throw because he throws it when the defender's here and Smitty's here, but Smitty catches it on the other side there, and it's like, man, that's the stuff you see out of, Justin Herbert, and that's the stuff you see out of Matt Stafford that gets everyone all hot and bothered and excited. And that's the stuff we just want our offense to include. We have our bread and butter plays. He's still going to be great throwing go balls down the sideline, even if it's not to AJ. We'll see, the conversion with the other receivers with that. But we have receivers that are built to be catching the ball over the middle like that, like Dontavian Wicks coming from that scheme of offense, like Makai Lemon, who's, pro comp coming out of college, is Amon-Ra St. Brown, whose whole game is in breakers and underneath routes like that, and Devontae Smith, who we know can make catches in tough situations despite being small. So we're going to see we're going to see a new offense. We're going to see some growing pains, I think, with it. And I think as the season progresses, it's going to get better and it's going to look better. And, as long as we can get to a point where Jalen just is trusting himself and feeling more confident to let it rip over the middle, that's how you just become a more complete offense, a more dynamic offense that's a lot less predictable. A big reason we talk about being predictable, yes, it was formation. Yes, it was like no motion or lack of motion, whatever the case may be. But a big reason it was predictable is because they knew we weren't throwing over the middle. Teams knew that we were throwing either go balls, we were throwing stop routes, we were throwing hitches, we were throwing comebacks, or we were running the ball. We weren't really targeting over the middle. And I think we're going to see a ton of under center. We're going to see a lot of under center play action. And we're going to see throws that happen over the middle. And every now and again, he might sail a couple, but the same way that Josh Allen sails a couple, the same way that Dak sails a couple, the same way that Mahomes sails a couple. So um, I'm excited. Overall, I'm just really excited for that. And I'm looking forward to what that's going to feel like and what that's going to look like.
I mean,
What
I
was some other
agree.
highlights you had?
I agreed. I think we shouldn't be looking for that in the preseason. If you remember in 2013 with Chip Kelly, the preseason was the vanilla, boring offense, and then week 1 happened, and we were like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever!" Like it was
It's going to be,
literally
it's,
literally
yeah.
night and day. And like, no offense to Nick, but like his offense is very vanilla, and even with like Shane calling the plays, or like Shane, like you wish in 2022 with Shane calling the plays, it was like the same deal. Like they don't
Hmm.
care about preseason, they don't care about. We know that. Everyone should know that. The only time the offense looked exciting in the preseason that I can recall off the top of my head was when Tanner McKee looked like Tom Brady for 2.5 quarters against the Bengals last year. And that was Kevin Patullo calling the plays, Michael. So figure
Tom
that out.
Brady. No,
So
no.
figure
I
that
mean,
out. You know,
what's
put that
funny is that like you bring up the
on
chip
that.
thing, and it's like, we saw the chip stuff week one. We're like, oh my god, and it's like we're gonna have the same reaction, but all we're gonna be doing is just running the ball under center, and it's just gonna be like a under center play action throw over the middle, and it's like, wow, this has only been happening in football for 60 years, and we're like gonna be like, oh my god, look at it, that's so new. Like we're gonna be freaking out at the most boring basic shit, but it's the stuff that we haven't done in years.
It's gonna be like a drag route to like Dontavian Wicks that he gets like 8 yards after the catch, and we're like, oh my god, this is the
Yes,
greatest
that's
thing ever.
literally it's literally what it's going to be. So, um, what were what are some other who are some other standouts that you've seen and heard, from camp thus far?
Well, the Eagles kind of have a little bit of a conundrum on the offensive line because the guy that's really stood out the most has been a player that they stashed last year on IR. That would be
Hmm.
the former Ram guard center Willie Lampkin. Now,
Yes, yes.
what makes him very unique, Michael, is he's not very tall. He's
Hmm.
5'11 and a half. There was a viral photo of him standing next to Eagles' third round pick offensive tackle from the University of Miami, Markel Bell. And Markel Bell is like, I think, is he the tallest player in the NFL?
Something like that. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it was kind of comical. But Willie Lampkin has been a problem for
Hmm.
the Patriots this week. He was a problem for the Ravens last week. And listen, Cameron Jurgens last year
Hmm.
he really shouldn't have played, right? Until
No, him and Dickerson just should not have
they should not have been playing
played probably at all.
because of the injuries. Like you heard like Jurgens saying his disc was rattling around in his back. Like
Hmm.
holy crap, that sounds like how was he even walking? You know, well, Michael, you have to think if Jurgens struggles or if Tyler Steen struggles, either Jurgens bounces back to right guard, which he played in 2022, to put Willie Lampkin in at center, or if Cameron Jurgens struggles and Steen's okay, you do the switch there
Yeah,
because the team is super high on Willie Lampkin. And when you look at this new blocking scheme that they have, where it feels like it's all about like athleticism, like and
well,
guys
it's very
working
simple.
and like guys like working in tandem together, and Willie Lampkin's really excelling at that. I, I mean, you tell me, dude. Like, don't you kind of feel like? I mean, do you think Chris Cooper, the Eagles' new offensive line coach, it's not like he's Stoutland where he might have loyalty to some players over others. These are all brand new players to him. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they have their five starters, and I think like you would have to be playing probably pretty bad to lose the role. I think Tyler Steen goes a little underrated at times. They've been saying he's having a really good camp, but I do think that like I don't think he's that bad. Like seriously, I think at worst he's like average,
no, I
and
think he's
if
an average
anything,
guard.
I think he's like an average to above average guard that plays up when everyone else around him is like themselves. And obviously last year, everyone around him was horrific. So, everything looked horrific. But yeah, I think that's a fair point. That if anyone struggles or gets banged up, they feel pretty confident with Willie Lampkin and the ability to kind of shuffle around the interior offensive line. I mean, Landon Dickerson, they said was getting his lunch money taken by Milton Williams pretty regularly over the last couple days, which like Milton Williams is very good. We know he's very good.
I
But
mean, I mean, Pro Football Focus had him as a top 3 defensive tackle, Michael.
Yeah, no, he's very, very good. And Landon Dickerson, the injuries just might have, eh, guys get hurt, they recover, they get surgery. Some guys look back to their normal selves, but Landon Dickerson has had a lot of procedures over his life. We know, how much he got hurt in college and how much he got hurt early on in his NFL career. Getting
This is
uh,
this is kind of my beef when we watched all the videos of
like
guys.
last year, he had to play. He coming off meniscus surgery, and he played like a week after and did not miss a game pretty much the entire season and looked horrific last year and like never giving his body an opportunity to fully heal or recover or rest for that matter. I could have like permanently, negatively impacted him where Landon Dickerson used to be a very special mover and a special athlete for his gargantuan size and now might just be more, you know, to a solid offensive lineman when he's healthy instead of like an all pro caliber guy or even not as good. So it'll be interesting. We will see how it plays out, but it's not that I'm like completely worried about it as much as it's just like it's something I'm going to keep an eye on. The offensive line is the biggest thing for me because I have confidence in pretty much every other element of the team. Um, the biggest thing that I have concern about is the offensive line because like you said, John, it's the same players. It's not changing at all. The only thing that's changing is hopefully the health of Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens. But if that health is, in question or they never fully get back to themselves, then it's like, yeah, we're not going to have a top five, top three offensive line that we've been used to having over this 6 year run. And that's just something that you got to work around. There might be, we might be a team that is offensive line is a lot better run blocking than it is pass blocking. That might be what our situation is this year. So it's just going to be interesting
I
to keep
find
an
it
eye on.
interesting that a lot of the players, when they were talking about Mannion, like the offensive linemen, like I think obviously you heard about the viral one was Jordan Mailata calling him this evil genius, like,
Right.
and we were like, oh wow, like thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Nick, thanks, bruh.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, we're kidding. Well, you're not
Mm,
kidding.
mm.
Maybe we aren't kidding. Who knows? Um, but like you heard like Lane saying he's like, oh, thank God, I'm 35 years old. Like I'm gonna have help for the first time, like blocking out on the edge. Like for the like thank God. Like and you have to wonder, like, we love Stout, greatest offensive line coach ever. Maybe with this new scheme, like we're not gonna kill our players while we do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's going to help Landon Dickerson and Cameron Jurgens long term going forward. Um, I don't, I don't know. Like you tell me, like brother. Like
Yeah.
I,
I mean, I
I
think,
think the run blocking is like listen, like the whole caveat of the Packers and the Rams, like their offense is EPA and success rate, particularly with running the ball,
mhm.
and they certainly have the offensive line talent to do that. And I don't know, man. Like you look at like Jordan Love. Jordan Love kind of holds on the ball a little bit too long at times. Matt Stafford's like the
Mm.
opposite. He'll rip it real quick to get so he doesn't get leveled. I think it's going to depend on Jalen too, for also to a certain extent. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a big group effort. I mean, we'll just have to kind of see and wait till week one because we're really only going to get anything, but we're only going to get crumbs from like practice chatter and whatnot. But they ran the ball with Jalen a lot more around the red zone, which I think is a very, effective way to use him. And that's something that they rarely did last year at all, running the ball with Jalen. And I think upping that again will help us out. Obviously, he's got to protect himself, but I don't know. We're just going to see a completely new offense, truly. Like they're still going to run the tush push. They're still going to have their go balls down the sideline that they like, but ultimately, the offense is going to look brand new. And I think that's something that we're we're long overdue. My lot is saying too that like, this is what the Rams and the Packers and 49ers have been doing all these years. And it's like, this is nice. And it's like, yeah, no shit, man. It is nice to finally catch up with the times and run 2026 concepts in 2026. So, um, yeah, those are kind of the big storylines at this point. Are there any other, positives or concerns that you have with the Eagles at this
Well,
current
let's go.
juncture?
Let's go on the defensive side of the ball. Positives, obviously, Jalen Carter. Um, After signing the massive extension, he
Hmm.
looks like he's poised to have a breakout year. Like when I say breakout year, I mean he might be the best defensive tackle in football type breakout year.
Yeah.
Um, Jordan Davis, apparently even better shape this year coming into camp than he was last year, and we all marveled at how much in shape he was coming in last year. And then Moro Jomo, who's been very good. So I'm not the Eagles like defensive tackles slash like down linemen that they have.
Hmm.
Not a huge concern, especially when you hear like Vic talk about. Did you see Vic's comment about last year's fourth round pick? I believe from the University of Nebraska. I think Ty Robinson saying,
Hmm.
"Oh, he made plays. He's been on life support ever since he's gotten here, but now he's like
Showing some life.
yeah, he's like this guy was garbage ever since he's gotten here, but now he's actually looking like he can play." So
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. No, for sure. It is pretty funny, but their defensive line, I think, is going to be, especially interior, it's going to be good. There is a concern at the current moment, um, and it's Jonathan Grenard. Obviously, is probably going to miss week one, is what it seems like with that pec issue.
It's not a
Uh,
good sign when Bleacher Report's like, "Oh, the Eagles can sign Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick, yeah,
Now
no, for
that
sure,
AJ's gone, we can sign Hassan Reddick."
yeah,
Remember that
um,
ridiculous rumor?
right. But yeah, Zach Berman pointed out a good thing that was like, it's less about, we know he probably won't be ready for week one. That almost doesn't matter. Is how is he going to look and how is he going to feel by week 10? And the whole argument was that it was like the Eagles had a lot of injuries last year that didn't result in a ton of missed games. We just talked about it at length with the offensive line. Jalen Carter was like the poster child of that last year with his shoulders, where it was like, oh, he really can't do a push up right now. And it's like, all right. And he was playing all the time though, and we noticed the lack of Jalen Carter affecting games. He'd show a few flashes here and there, but it wasn't a constant force. And you know, part of that was because he was hurt and he didn't have a chance to heal and fully recover and rest. And these guys were playing through it all. So the big thing that hurt us last year were the nagging, lingering injuries that weren't severe enough for guys to miss games, but were severe enough to greatly hurt their ability and their skills. And Jonathan Grenard is, big investment from the Eagles. Like they gave him a lot of money after they acquired him and are, we're expecting him to be, this double digit sack guy coming off the edge to replace basically Jalen Phillips from last year and be, you know, able to get to the quarterback off the edge at a consistent level that their current edges, as promising and as hopeful as we are for guys like Jalen Hunt and Nolan Smith, they haven't, they're not ripping 12 sack seasons flying off the edge on a consistent basis. They're very good at certain things and they're improving and whatnot. But Jonathan Grenard was supposed to be like the guarantee this guy's going to win all the
Yeah, the
time
edge
and,
rush last year didn't take off
dominant.
until Jalen Phillips kind of
So
arrived,
Jalen Phillips got there. And, you know,
and
Grenard,
now you're almost like banking on AJ Epinesa, who's been having a really good camp,
yeah, and
and Ebony
Ebonike to be good as well, which is true. Like the depth at edge rusher is going to be a lot better than it was last year. Like those two guys alone are better than like Josh Uche, and the other guys that they were rolling out coming along the edge there. So it's and they're good against the run because the whole point is that it's like you want your best guys to be out there on pass rushing down. So to give them blows, you need good
The
edge
Eagles are
rushers against
really
the run.
lucky at the start of their year on paper, where the first 2 weeks of the season, like games that Grenard will probably miss
Sure.
potentially. I mean, the Commanders are down Laramie Tunsil,
Yep.
and Michael, like the Tennessee Titans. I mean, they have J.C. Latham, but he's.
They have a pretty rough offensive line.
I mean, they're. I mean, the Titans might be if they're going to finish like if the Titans will be bad this year and they're going to finish top 5. It's fair to guess they're probably going to target like a franchise left tackle to protect Cam Ward, probably in the draft.
Mhm.
I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. So that definitely helps. I guess it's less about the games he's going to miss, and it's more about how Grenard's going to look when he gets back. Is he going to be at the ability that the Eagles assumed he would be at when they gave him that big contract? Is he going to be the guy flying off the edge? If the pec is going to be a nagging issue that he never fully looks himself, and we're going to be pretty disappointed with him for this upcoming season, that's certainly going to be a blow. That's certainly going to be a blow that I'm sure Howie and Vic and everyone didn't have in mind, because it's a new injury that popped up with the pec. It's not something that he had really been dealing with before. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on it. But overall, I do think the defense is still going to be tremendous, regardless of his health and whatnot, just because of the star power. Their linebacker room is very, very good. I mean, they got two of the probably top 10 off-ball linebackers as their starters, and like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. would probably start on a handful of teams as well, and he's your like first depth guy. And Smile Munden is a very, very good special teamer who has showed some life as well, playing linebacker. So Vic said it's his most deep position, and I believe him with that. Obviously, you have a corner trio that pretty much rivals everybody. It's hard to pick a better corner trio in the NFL than what the Eagles have to offer. And that should definitely help out with the safeties and stuff. So the defense is going to be great. I really do believe that. The offense, I think, is going to come along, but as we've known in the past, you don't need to have both a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense. If you're going to have a top 5 defense, the offense just really needs to be kind of top 10 for
I
you
kind
to
of do
be a
have a
serious
concern
contender.
that nobody has brought up at all.
Go ahead. I think I might know what you're going to say, but what do you got?
Well, Christian Parker was kind of tabbed to be like the Vic replacement. And then obviously Vic, sounds like he wants to coach at least for another couple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He said that. So I'll take it at face value. He left to join the Cowboys. And I believe the Eagles replaced it internally. Eagles secondary coach. It's Mike Pellegrino. He's worked alongside, let's see here. The Eagles defensive passing game coach, Joe Casper. It's not good when I look you up and then like Gemini doesn't have like a bio on you at all. Oh, he was hired to be the secondaries coach. He was hired to be the secondaries coach, so he wasn't internally. Sorry. So I thought he was internal. It's 2025. Pellegrino served as the Nichols coach for the Buffalo Bills.
All right. I guess what's your concern with him?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like Christian Parker, like, I don't know. Like, I sure some fans saw AJ was like tormenting Quinyon. And now we're going to be like, if Quinyon gets beat like week 1 by Terry McLaurin, are we going to be like, oh my God, Christian Parker?
Oh,
Like,
I mean, I don't know. I think there's more. I'm not going to
we
worry
tend to
about.
overthink
Honestly,
a
I'm
lot.
not going to worry about the defense at all. I'm really not. I'm only going to worry about like Jonathan Grenard's health. My biggest worry. This is what I thought you were going to say. My biggest worry is currently Jake Elliott and the kicker. I just he
I'm
seemed to not have a good
very
practice
surprised they did not bring in another kicker to compete with him.
because he's got a sizable contract. Like they don't, I think they want him to just be good enough. And, last year obviously struggled a lot and like was not good during the Super Bowl run. Very inconsistent. And I don't know what's, if he's just like washed or what have you, but if he's
remember
he'll
when?
cost you games, man. He will cost you games if he's going to struggle
So
again.
I'll say this: the Eagles in this offseason They signed the top long snapper in college football, Rocco Underwood, which, Michael, if that was ever a Fugazi Madden name,
Yeah,
that's most certainly like a Madden name,
right.
Rocco Underwood. Anyway, because I think last year we were like, oh, well, maybe Jake's missing these kicks because the long snaps are just ass. And then the original long snapper, because Rick Lovato retired, so last year they signed a different long snapper. He gets hurt. They signed someone else, and then Jake's missing all these like kind of like gimme kicks. Like now, I mean, you got guys
I mean,
banging in.
John, he was missing kicks in practice again. Like he's missing. He did not. He was like, what was it like? I don't know. He just was not a good field goal percentage in practice this week. It's concerning. Like it's not. I don't know what to make of it, other than just like it's not going to be good watching him miss field goals this year if he's not going to be consistent. Like he needs to be a, I'm not saying he's got to be a top 3 kicker in the sport, but he can't be just selling games for you or selling extra
That's
points
the
and
thing.
killing
It's like it's
drives.
not like I feel like for in the NFL, like he definitely like he sold in games where it was like, oh, if Jake made this kick, then we could have rested starters, or like it would have been a sweat.
I mean, he missed kicks in Dallas that kind of cost you the game. Like it's not like it is making you sweat games. Like he was missing kicks in in uh the NFC Championship game, and he was missing kicks in the regular season last year that just put you in uncomfortable situations where you could ice a game and he's not making them and stuff. And it's just like I don't know. You just got to be better. There's no excuses for it at this point. Like you're either good or you're not as a kicker. There's no like you can delve into it at this point, but it ultimately boils down to you need to make your kicks. And if he's not making his
I'm
kicks,
shocked no
then
one signed the University of Texas San Antonio freak athlete kicker.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll be a midseason thing. But looking at the time here, that'll wrap us up for today's show. We have Phillies action at 6 o'clock. We'll see how the weather holds up, and then we also have some Eagles preseason later tonight as well to tune into. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Summer is coming to a close. It's winding down here. Phils are hot. Hopefully they stay hot
This
and
feels like the first like fall, like early fall ish weekend.
fall-ish. Yeah, fall-ish. But well, soon enough, the weather will be crisp and we'll be full swing into football season with the stretch run of baseball. But thank you all for tuning in, and
Thank you,
we'll
everybody.
catch you
Enjoy
next
the rest of
time.
your weekend.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.